I can't believe it, but I decided to do the hike out on the Kalalau Trail with the whole group. I won't lie, I had an idea that followed me throughout the hike. What if I stayed for another day and night, rested peacefully, and headed out from the camp the next day? We had permits for 3 nights. But I decided not to put myself in danger because, after all, I had an injured toenail, which I had hit on a tree root and was about to lose. Considering that a lot of sand had gotten under the nail, there was a risk of infection which I really wanted to avoid. The guys even tried to find me a boat for the way back so I wouldn't have to hike out, but we weren't lucky. So after logically assessing the situation, I had no choice but to hike back with 10 blisters and a minor toenail injury. The night before, we were packing our backpacks for the hike back. It took some time. I went to bed at 11 p.m., but didn't fall asleep until after midnight. And at 4 a.m., we had to get up. In the end, we set out from camp at 5 a.m. We woke up and left so early because we knew I would be walking slowly, and the car was waiting for us at a certain time. So we had a deadline to meet, regardless of the circumstances. Mike, say hi. If you can. How do you feel so far?
Really good. A little tired.
What
It's alright.
can we do? We just started. Another reason we woke up so early and started the hike was the sun. We wanted to get through the first part of the trail before it reached its peak, as the second part of the route is in the forest and the first part is in the open sun. As is typical on this trail, at the very beginning of the road, we hiked uphill, but after overcoming that point, we mostly walked on flat terrain along the edge of a cliff, with breathtaking views of the mountains and ocean both behind and ahead of us. Hiking back was significantly easier, not only physically, despite the high level of fatigue, but also mentally. I knew that every step was bringing me closer to home. At the most dangerous part of the trail, Crowley's Ledge, we encountered an Indian family who had left all their backpacks at the 6-mile camp. They decided to hike to the end of the trail lightly, carrying only the bare essentials, planning to return to the 6-mile mark by the evening without staying overnight on the Kalalau Trail. To be honest with you, this section of the trail is challenging on its own, extremely narrow with unstable ground underfoot. However, the situation was complicated further by the presence of other people on the trail. Thankfully, they stopped and let us pass, but one of the women was standing right in the middle of the path, not pressed against the rock, and it was quite difficult to pass her without slipping off the edge. Mike was the last in our group, and as he was passing her, she suddenly said she urgently needed to move forward. Without waiting for a response from Mike, she practically pushed him off the path. He later told us he barely managed to keep his balance. We didn't even have time to get angry at her. It all happened so fast and we were already so exhausted. Thanks God that we all survived. But halfway through, it became harder for me to walk because my blisters started acting up. So about half a mile later, we stopped and the men took my blisters seriously. They understood that without proper treatment, I simply wouldn't make it back. Our goal was for everyone to reach the end together and on time, so we spent about 30 minutes treating them. I also swapped my unsuitable hiking socks for Justin's spare hiking socks. I need to say I'm incredibly grateful for my team for taking care of me and helping me the entire way. Without them, completing this journey would have been much more difficult. It was a great teamwork. Can you see my face? How it's done?
I like a good circus.
We continued on the trail. It's funny, but I injured my toenail in the first 10 minutes of the hike. The idea of quitting didn't even cross my mind. Many people later asked me why I didn't. Moreover, I learned that not everyone hikes back, knowing what they have to face. Some find boats, load their backpacks and sail back even without injuries, just because it's hard. But at that time, I didn't see that as an option for myself. It felt silly to quit halfway through after preparing for this adventure, so I just focused on one small step at a time, trying not to think about how many miles we still had left. By the way, this is how it looks 6 miles camp. On the last couple miles of the trail, we left the shade again and were fully exposed to the sun. By this point, I was exhausted. All my food supplies were gone, and Mike shared his just to keep me going. The guys also helped lighten my backpack by taking some items from it and making it easier to carry. But I still couldn't walk any faster. My only task was to keep moving. Justin ran ahead to the car, dropped off his backpack, and then ran back to meet me on the last mile to take my pack. But I thought that if he carried it, it wouldn't count as me completing the Kalalau Trail, so I refused this help, much to his frustration. Along the way, I tripped over a tree root. In the end, it took us 11 hours to hike in and 10 hours to hike out, arriving at the car an hour late. Honestly, by the end of the hike, I couldn't film anything anymore, but I hope I managed to share my story from the Kalalau Trail with you and that you'll learn from my mistakes. In the next video, I'll talk about the reasons why some people even die on this hike. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. More adventures are coming soon. Thank you for being with me on Kalalau Trail.